Welcome to the Builders of Authority podcast, a show committed to helping you build authority for your brand. In the realm of business and personal branding, authority stands as a cornerstone. Authority isn't built overnight, it's built over time. So join us as we build something remarkable together. And now, here's your host, Adam McChesney.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Builders of Authority podcast. We're live here in our new office space at Adventure Unknown. This is where we'll be doing the in-person podcast moving forward as well. So I'm super excited about this transition, some of which I'll talk about here today, but also excited to kind of show you what we're going to be doing here in the new studio. So I have my first in-person guest coming a little bit later today. But right now we're going to do a solo episode to kind of talk about the transition, talk about kind of what went into it, not just the logistical side, but the mindset side, and ultimately ways to set yourself up for success as an entrepreneur, time management, making decisions, simplifying things, and then also talk about the aspect of setting yourself up for success when creating content. So I'm going to be diving a lot into that here today. But the first thing I want to touch on, and I typically don't have agenda or notes in these episodes, but I do here today because I want to hit on a couple different things, is talk about kind of what we have here in this space. So in this space, you won't be able to see it in this video, but I'll be sharing some more content here down the line, is you have my main office desk right here as I'm kind of pointing in that direction. So that's just kind of my day-to-day space where I do most of the stuff on a daily basis. Then over there, we have a vibe board that I have mounted on a wall. Also can operate like a TV. I've had this vibe board for about a year and a half now, and I've done some trainings. If you've been watching my content on social media, you've seen me do a couple things here and there, but for the most part, it's been widely underutilized. So when we were trying to figure out to maximize this space, because it's not big, it basically went from 3 offices or 3 little spaces down to 1 here. I wanted to say, hey, how could we maximize the opportunity there? So we have a vibe board that'll be able to do short and long form content, even some live trainings and some really creative stuff there. So I'm really excited about that. Then we have kind of my sit down content creation studio over there where I do my YouTube videos. I do some B-roll. When we're going to be having guests that are coming on remotely, we use Riverside. And then with that, that's where I do that. And then I also am a guest on a lot of podcasts, and I do some webinars, and I do other things as well. So that's that studio over here. And then right here, we have the 2 chairs set up where this will be kind of in-person episodes, sometimes some solo episodes, and then just different content that I'll be doing. So really excited to kind of show you the full aspect of what this room, well, one, looked like before, but also what it's going to look like now that we have everything set up. So by the time this episode goes out, you'll probably have already seen a bunch of that stuff. I just haven't posted it on social media yet at the time of recording this content. But a massive shout out to my wife, Delaney, for coming up with the design of all of this. So these chairs are super comfortable. The set, the ambiance of the in-person episode is really something I'm excited about. And so she was kind of the brain power behind all of this. She worked with another fellow AU member, Jeff, he was the one that actually did all this stuff. So did the wood paneling, did all the aspects of getting this thing ready to go. And then Scott Schusler, who owns Adventure Unknown, he also provided some ideas and said, hey, here's what I think might work versus not work. So it's really awesome. We got the Builders of Authority sign up here too with some Gobi lights behind it just to kind of have it stick out a little bit. But yeah, I went to Nicaragua for 8 days, and I came back and a lot of this office was already done. My wife put in a lot of time and effort to make this possible. And so shout out Delaney. This office space came to fruition just with your ideas, and I kind of gave you the blank canvas to go do it, and you made it happen. So for that, I'm extremely thankful and love you. So kind of transitioning a little bit from what the space is and kind of where we're at, I want to talk a little bit about the decision that I made to come over here full time. I've been a member at Adventure Unknown for almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in August, so I guess about a year and a half. And I found myself going to my office, which is about 5 minutes from my house, And it was super convenient. It was awesome. It was a great space. I was there for 3 years, but my lease was getting ready to renew. So it was like, hey, go renew another 3-year lease or find another space or come up here to Adventure Unknown. And so as I knew this space was open, I started to have some conversations with Scott, and I said, hey, I would love to bring everything here. I'm already doing the podcast right next door. But I kind of want my own space to bring all the different things that I do on a daily basis together. So after some back and forth and things like that, decided, hey, March 1st, when my lease is up in February, I'm going to move in. And the decision behind that was I was finding myself coming up here usually every other Thursday for podcasts, up here other multiple times per week, whether it's networking events, meeting with clients, just one-to-ones to meet some of the new members, and just also like wanting to be at this space. If you've been up to Adventure Unknown or even just seen content online, you know how awesome of a place this is. And so I wanted to be up here more. And I found myself getting frustrated when I was 5 minutes from my house at the other office. Then I got to come out here, which is about 15 minutes from there. And then I'm lugging my laptop, lugging all this stuff around, but I don't have my like in the zone flow state stuff. I don't have my iMac. I don't have my second monitor set up. Just didn't have a lot of stuff. So I was wasting time, in my opinion, going back and forth, and then also not at my highest level of productivity. And so going into that, I was like, hey, yes, this place is 15 minutes from my house versus 5. But the net time save that I'm gonna have is gonna be exponential by not really having to go to all these other places. And then from there, I'm gonna be able to maximize my time with the stuff I actually need when I'm working. And so that's what has excited me the most. In addition to just being in the proximity of all of these people, I'm now able to have more conversations on a daily basis by just being up here versus being in and out and being on a very structured and regimented schedule when I was here. So if you know me and have been following me for a while and you've ever worked with me or had conversations with me, you know that calendar runs my life as it should. And so I felt rushed every single time I was here because I felt like I needed to get back to home base. Well, now home base is here from an office standpoint. So that's extremely impactful. And obviously there's a lot of different events that happen up here. So I could easily kind of step out of my office, go meet with people and do all of that stuff. But the other kind of point I want to touch on is the one space philosophy. So we have a lot of different stuff in here. It's not, as you'll see the pictures, especially the before and after, it's not this like massive space. So I had to be very strategic with the help of my wife and Jeff and Scott on like how we were going to fit all of this stuff in here. But with that, as I wanted to be able to go from one station to the next station and the next station and have stuff kind of set up, ready to go. All these cameras, we have a 3-camera system now for the podcast. Like that's going to be set up, ready to go. We got some little stickers kind of marking things off here. So I don't have to guess every single time we're doing a podcast, every single time we're doing this other content. And I want to be able to go from having a meeting on my main desk area to if I need to come here and record these podcasts to then later today record some content for YouTube. I'm just going station to station to station to be able to set myself up for success and not have to reinvent the wheel every single time. But we upgraded, right, a lot of the equipment that I have in here. So the stuff I've been using is good, but I'm like, hey, if I'm gonna do all this stuff my own, I want to get the nice lights, I want to get the ambiance, the nice chairs. I want to make sure that we're not cutting any corners to make sure that this is the space that I don't have to move out of in the future. So everything lives in this one room, nothing travels back and forth, it's set up, ready to go, etc. And so with that, right, a lot more content at a very high level production is ultimately what I'm doing with the new gear. We have a full-time video editor, Catalina. She's been not necessarily recording, but she was recording while I was in Nicaragua. She's been chopping up a bunch of the content, doing more reels. We have Luigi, who's our new social media manager. He's figuring out all the different trends, figuring out, Adam, make this. So more content will be coming from that. And so different types of content too. Again, with the Vibe board, I'm super excited to kind of go live on social media, get that going and test out some different things there. So there's a lot coming in the pipeline from a content standpoint. And then the other aspect is time management and flow state. And this is something that I struggled with for a while, not necessarily the time management per se, but more so being in the flow state. So I learned this years ago, but a lot of people are like, hey, I struggle to create content every single day. And it's like, yeah, in theory, you don't want to be creating content every single day in the true sense of like, I'm not doing a podcast every single day. And when I do podcasts, I typically do two. So then that way I don't have to do podcasts every single week because it is daunting, it is exhausting, and it is a time commitment. And the same thing with that is I usually will do 2 to 4 YouTube videos at a given time. I'll usually do different reels at a given time. I typically don't just make a one-off reel. And so with that, it's setting up your time from a time management and calendar management standpoint to be at your best when you're creating content. There's a reason why I do my podcasts and my YouTube videos typically earlier in the day, because that's when I'm fresh, most creative, able to be in kind of that zone of genius when I'm creating content, not doing it at the end of the day. And so there is this aspect that kind of hit me just over the last year and a half, going back and forth from that office up here of like, I'm rushing to get up here to do the podcast, then I'm leaving to get back to my office. And if I had a meeting that was super close to when I was doing the podcast, I'd typically pull up my laptop, have the meeting here, but not be really with all the things I needed to be in order to maximize the impact of that meeting. And so time management, again, a lot of people are like, well, now you're driving 15 minutes each way. That's 30 minutes versus 5 minutes before each way, which is 10. So I do spend about 20 extra minutes on the lower end if there's traffic or I got to run somewhere or whatever in the car now every single day. But I get that back with the efficiency of being up here, of the proximity of the people that I'm able to be up here with. So it is a net positive in my opinion, because I'm not racing back and forth and doing all those things. And a lot of people struggle not just with time management, but I think they struggle to understand what days of the week they're best at creating content, what days of the week are for their internal meetings, what days of the week should they be taking sales calls or having whatever the other meeting are, like networking things. Like you don't want to be leaving your schedule open for a networking meeting that is likely not going to immediately lead you to business or push the needle forward right now. You don't want to say, hey, I can do it any day of the week. You want to say, hey, Wednesday from 8 to 12, those are the days where I'm free to grab coffee, grab lunch, meet, etc. So it was a little bit of like breaking the routine of what I was doing to bring this all in here. And it is a little bit uncomfortable, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a massive win. And it kind of ties into the next point of setting yourself up for success to actually win. A lot of people know the plan they need to take in order to be successful, whether that's creating content, running their business, their health and the fitness or whatever, but other things pop up and get in the way, which doesn't necessarily allow them actually to win. And so as an example, right, I was working so hard to create the amount of content that I was creating and do the podcasts that I was doing, but everything else from there was sacrificed. So it's like I was working longer hours to catch up on the non-fluid state of what I was doing, or catching up because I had all that additional drive time multiple times a week and I wasn't effective up here. So I was down on myself and I felt like I could be doing more, I could be doing better, right? And so people have the plan, but then they have the meal prep plan, they have the fitness plan, they have the content plan, they have the business plan. But then when things come up that veer them off that path, they let it veer them off the path and then they don't learn from it, right? I could have renewed that 3-year lease, totally fine, about the same price I was paying here for 3 extra spaces essentially. Then from there, closer to my house, like I could have done that. I could have went and got a cheaper option, could have went and worked. Like there's so many different angles I could have taken it, and I would have still had the plan, right? And I still probably would have hustled and grinded my way through to do the thing, but at the cost of what? The cost of being inefficient, the cost of feeling like I should be doing more, the cost of feeling defeat or working longer hours, or the opportunity cost of missing out on more time with my family, or not being able to do X, Y, and Z, or not being able to go make more money, right? So there's an opportunity cost as well as just a learning lesson that you have to have. And so I wanted to set the space up for productivity and efficiency. Time management isn't just about the calendar that you have, it's about the environment that you're in. And so this environment, compared to the other environment that I was in a 4-story building. I was on the 3rd floor. I didn't really see anybody every single day. Now I'm back here at Adventure Unknown on the other side of the members club. But at the same instance, I'm seeing people every single day. Now, some days are less of seeing people in conversations, but today I have 2 in-person meetings here later today, one with an existing client, one with a potential client. And then I have a networking event and something with a client later today for happy hour. So again, these things could have been possible without this 100%, but it just would have been at the cost of something else. And so that's super important to take a look at. And I want to close this episode out by where I've been at in life and business, right? So I've added a lot of complexity over the years, whether that was me leaving medical device sales to go build this thing, to a couple months later starting the auto glass company, to then 3 months later becoming a franchisee of a digital marketing agency, to then starting a landscape design business, to then doing all of these things and becoming a partner in that other agency, to then building Builders of Authority as the mastermind in personal branding, to then Murphy being born, to me deciding I wanted out and dealing with a lawsuit for 8 months of trying to get out of that other agency, to then restarting Builders of Authority, and then from there selling the auto glass company, buying a vacation rental down in Florida, becoming a partner in a roofing and outdoor living company. Like, I've added a lot of stuff, right? And so for me, this season is kind of a culmination of what you see here is how can I be as efficient as I possibly can with the resources required for me to be successful without all of that complexity. So breaking it down to the simplicity is, yes, I have the nice equipment now. Yes, we have success inside of the business. We've grown to 40 plus team members now, $2 million plus a year in business. Like, all these things that years and years ago seemed absolutely impossible. So I have better resources to be able to do a lot of different stuff. But sometimes when you have the resources to be able to go buy the nice equipment or buy the vibe board that I've used 5 times in the last year and a half, you don't end up using the thing. So it's, how do I set myself up for success by mounting that on the wall, by buying the new equipment, by making it easy to create the content so then that I can follow the actual plan. So my encouragement and reflection for you in listening or watching today's episode is, where can you actually get back to the basics? How can you make things more simple in your personal life, in your business, in your health and fitness, in creating content, and all those things, so it's not so complex to where you're confused? Because if you're confused, you're not motivated. If you're not motivated, you're not disciplined. If you're not disciplined, you're not following through on the plan. A lot of people know the plan, they want to be successful, but when something comes up, they don't know how to handle it and get out on the other side. Getting back to the basics, me getting back to the basics of how do I just create more high quality content and do it with quality time management, but more so efficiency management, so I can be in my best flow state of mind, that zone of genius. That's what I want you to take away from this episode. Also, if you want to come see the space, if you haven't been to Adventure Unknown yet, you want to see kind of what we're doing, all that stuff, would love the opportunity to show you around. I hope this episode helped maybe challenge you, think about something different. I know a lot of people see what I'm doing and think there's all these crazy resources he has to be able to go do X, Y, and Z. And really, I'm getting back down to the basics in so many different aspects. So I encourage you to do the same. Thank you so much for watching or listening to today's podcast. If you're watching the video, make sure on YouTube you're liking the video, leaving a comment, subscribing to the channel, sharing it all over social media, and then download every single episode. Subscribe to the show on the podcasting platform of your choice. We'll see you next week. And remember, authority isn't built overnight, it's built over time.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We sure do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. This way you'll get notifications as new episodes become available. If you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. We sure do appreciate it. Until next time, friends.